Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 4 of The Acolyte, the love child of Kathleen Kennedy and Leslie Headland in a threesome with woke Disney. So let's get going to the episode and the plot, and where Disney went wrong with plot holes and blatant inconsistencies. Also, if you've not seen episodes 1 to 3, The Critical Drinker made an excellent commentary about it, similar to what I'm going to be doing in this video. So I'll link them below, make sure to check it out. And before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel. This is the first video on the screenbeanyt channel, so make sure to subscribe for future epic, awesome content. Now this episode is one big game of galactic ping pong between Coruscant and the Forest World Kofar, so try not to throw up as you join me on this absolutely just definitely wonderful ride. Well, we open the episode with Kelnaka, the Wookiee Jedi, at his home on the Forest World of Kofar. We see these weird swirly symbols on his walls that were also seen on May's forehead and the other Force Witches' foreheads during the flashback episode of episode 3. I'm just going to mention, Kelnaka is a very similar name to Chewbacca. Like, they really couldn't come up with something original there. I'm not entirely sure if that ending type of name is native to Kashyyyk and the Wookiees, and if it's in most of their names, but it just seems like a blatant copy of Chewbacca that I feel like many people haven't mentioned. But then we flick over to Coruscant, where Osha is saying goodbye to the young Padawan Jeki Lan, and it seems that they have some sort of lesbian chemistry. Alright, Disney. But firstly, at the very beginning of the scene, why do the younglings get sticks and not lightsabers like the younglings in the prequels? Like, these children are obviously very much older than those younglings, and are training with a little bit of wood. Osha says goodbye to this girl that she met a couple of days ago, and not Sol, who literally saved her from death as a child. Yeah, that makes sense. I mentioned that this episode is a bunch of ping pong, and that still holds true as we're back on the forest planet of Kofar, where we meet May and Kymir, who have just landed to set out on a trek into the forest to find Kelnaka. Now, back on Coruscant, the Jedi are meeting about May's doings, a select few, including Ki-Adi-Mundi. There, they choose not to inform the Jedi High Council to avoid political scandal. Sol then convinces Venestra Rowe to allow him to track down May himself. Alright, let's just take a breath here. First, instead of going to find May where they know she will be on the forest planet, they discuss where their next move should be. They know May's targets. They know she's out to kill 4 specific Jedi. They know that Sol is perfectly safe in the Jedi Temple in Coruscant. The only other possible target is Kelnaka on Kofar. They should be going there already. They should be moving quickly, but it doesn't ring a bell to them. They just choose to talk about it around the Jedi Round Table. Anyway, I mentioned Ki-Adi-Mundi's there. He's just chilling there decades before he was canonically born. Even on Wikipedia, they had to change his birth date to match up with the lore in this episode. Nice one, Leslie Headland. They also choose not to inform the High Council, which, seems at first glance to be a good bit of symmetry with the Phantom Menace and their lack of knowledge to any prior Sith attacks, except for the fact that Ki-Adi-Mundi is literally there. Goodness gracious, why would Ki-Adi-Mundi specifically go against the Jedi and specifically lie for his own gain? Why would he do that? I'm not entirely sure. And finally, oh brother, after choosing not to follow protocol, Venestra Rowe complains that Sol didn't follow protocol and report that May possibly could have survived about 15 years ago. Like, Venestra Rowe specifically in the meeting just before specifically did not follow protocol by refusing to report the findings of the Sith, or the potential Sith, to the High Council. Anyway though, let's move on. Before Osha leaves, Sol locates her and recruits her to go on the next mission with him to find May. Sol tells May that they're still good in her, similar to Return of the Jedi when Luke says that they're still good in you to Vader. We also get the "I'm not gonna do that" cut to "I'm doing that" cliche, as Osha says, "I'm not gonna wear that civilian outfit," and we cut to her wearing the outfit on the ship to Kofar, where we see the first use of pronouns in the series, as Osha calls the tracker animal Basil he, they. Disregarding Disney's woke agenda, why are the Jedi just now leaving? Like, we're going to talk about this. This is going to be a theme throughout this commentary. But they should have left hours ago, because now Kymir and May have been trekking through the forest for hours with a massive head start. The Jedi are so far behind, but we're going to come back to this in a minute. We then see the Jedi land on Kofar, and they ask a bit of directions from the locals in what seems like a bit of a sitcom with a couple of jokes, and then just use their Basil tracker anyway with a bit of cloth that they conveniently kept around from Kelnaka years after he left. Like, that's a little bit convenient there. But why did they not start with the cloth? They probably wasted 10-15 minutes asking directions from locals instead of directly going to use the cloth from the Wookiee and using the tracker. That just doesn't make sense to me. Also, in this scene, Yord asks Osha, who is, a proven good guy, for her weapon, but then Yord just forgets about it a second later when Sol interrupts him. Disney has to be intentionally making all its white male characters in the show especially stupid. And, specifically Yord. After the Jedi trek a bit into the jungle, Osha taps on a little beetle thing, which ultimately ends in its death, where the Padawan says that it's an honor to see things transform into the Force. It's an honor to see something go into the Force, yeah? So it's fun to watch people die? Okay, Disney. May and Kymir, who we see in the next scene, stop to rest a little bit. You begin to see shreds of May's distrust with the Master in this scene, as Kymir then leaves to go get a bit more water, and May sets a trap for him. She screams, which can be heard by the Jedi, but they decide to do absolutely nothing about it, and only Kymir acts on it, running to the place where he heard the scream and getting caught up in a trap set by May. Then we get the classic evil villain gives away their entire plan, assuming no one can do anything about it cliche. While Kymir's hanging, May gives away her entire plan about what she's going to do in the following scenes, and assumes that Kymir can't do anything about it, which would be especially bad if Kymir is the Master in the end, and that is his secret identity, which, has been hinted to through dialogue in this episode and in past episodes. As we cut back to the Jedi, Sol tells Osha that he will tell her everything about her childhood and what happened on the fateful night when all of her family died, when they get saved back on the ship. That's the I'll tell you everything later, then probably won't tell you everything later because something very likely will happen to me cliche. But then Basil finds May right near Kelnaka's house, which leads the Jedi to Kelnaka's house. May quickly runs inside, but let's just mention how the Jedi were easily able to catch up with May and Kymir after their hours-long head start. It's not like the Jedi took an easier path either, so I guess time just doesn't exist in this Star Wars world. May then runs inside the house to find Kelnaka dead to a fresh lightsaber wound. As dusk turns to night and the light fades, May suddenly realizes that the Master is here. The Jedi call for May to come outside, but she doesn't, realizing that everybody there is in grave danger. We then see the Master descend behind Osha and the Jedi. He then overlooks Osha, drawing her attention. He then ignites a red lightsaber, tosses her aside with the flick of 2 fingers, causing the Jedi to ignite their lightsabers in what's an epic scene, to be honest. Then, the Jedi charge, but in a powerful use of the Force, the Master pushes them all back and the episode ends. Criminal to end the episode that way. This horror movie type of ending was actually very well executed and kind of had me on the edge of my seat for once in the series. I did enjoy that, but to end the episode like this is absolutely criminal, and this episode seemed like a filler to lengthen the series, though it was undoubtedly an improvement from last week in terms of action. The lore inconsistencies are unbearable to watch in this episode. If I had to offer another thing that I like about this episode, I'd say that the visuals are actually very stunning, especially the wide open shots of the mountains when they're trekking down them. It's something Disney doesn't use much anymore, with actually filming in real life locations rather than a set in a production studio. And when they actually use this real life actual locations, it looks great, and it definitely is shown here. Anyways, this was the first video on the Screenbean channel, so if you enjoyed, please like the video and subscribe for future content, and I'll maybe see you later next week for Acolyte episode 5. Anyway, peace.